what really pushed us to look for the service management solution in the first place was we started business in 2018 was when our company was formally registered. We really ramped up in 2019. As you can imagine, that time period was a challenging one for most small businesses. And then because of um, the health situation, we were forced to not be at the office as often as we would like, even though our staff complement at the time was probably about 5 or 6 persons. So because at that time we had to find a solution that could be accessed remotely, similar to what it is that ServiceBridge offers. So that is what pretty much pushed us to do it. We know we needed something, and we were coming from a background where it was all paper based. So that really pushed the drive to say, hey, everybody lives maybe about 50 or 60 miles apart from each other. So with that being the case, it's not a case where, oh, I need this from Damien, let me run and go grab it from him because I need some information off it. That forced us to make sure that everything that we did from the beginning had to be accessed no matter where we were. We looked at a couple, none that I can remember actually. But one of the critical things that was a part of any solution that we did, it had to be able to offer that QuickBooks integration. Because when we just started, naturally, one of the first things you do is your accounting software and then everything else. Because as it is that you start to do transaction as a business, you want to make sure that financially you have all your records in one place and all of that. So whatever solution it is that we sought had to have that. And fair enough, you guys were one of the very few solutions that offered anything even close to that in terms of a native solution. So how we learned about ServiceBridge before we actually took that plunge, I have history working with the desktop version. I'm not sure if it's the same company of Service CEO. So at the time, that's what we were rocking before in a couple of organizations that I worked with before. About two of them used the service CEO. And even at that time, I was saying, hey, but we have field engineers that are 100 miles away. How do they get the information back to us? So because that is what we're using at the time, I was charged with getting it done. But one of the prohibiting factors at that time was that the business was running for a decade. Everything was manual, everything was on paper. So it was prohibitive at that time to start. So when it is that we started this company, I remembered that, hey, Service CEO used to work very well for us. Let us see what Service Bridge has to offer. Technicians hate administrative work. They hate it. The easier you can make it for them is the more accurate and the more they'll actually do it.
So the primary usage, we use it practically every day, as Dwayne says. Anytime we are called out or we have to go to a location, no matter what. So whether it's recurring maintenance, delivery of items, what else would you say? Delivery, basically everything.
Yeah.
Because we have a policy. Once we touch an equipment, a work order is created. The work order is created and it's linked to that asset. So we use it for everything basically in our day-to-day, where the technical department is concerned.
Yeah, as Damien said, what he uses it for is actually if they're doing a delivery, if they're doing maintenance, if they're doing repairs, even if it's just a regular call out. We had a site visit recently that a customer wanted us to quote on maintenance. So we used ServiceBridge at the time to do an inventory count. So because on that work order you can add all the pictures, we just went around snapping model number, serial number, condition, anything that pops up. So even for things like that, that's not necessarily a billable job, we find use for it. And that is still separate and apart from all the background administrative stuff. When it is that you have new employees that you start, this is when they started, this is when it is that they left. If it is that we're doing reports, the reports in terms of the man hours that we spend on site, the amount of assets that we have for a particular customer. There's one customer that we have, and it's not necessarily our largest customer in terms of value, but that one customer has 73 locations and over 180 pieces of equipment. So you can imagine trying to manage all of that with paper. It's next to impossible. So yeah, those are some of the cases where even if it is that it may not be on a day-to-day basis, there's a lot of value in having that information available on hand. So for me, one of the first things I always mention is the support, um, as well as the fact that it has the service portal. So that customer that we mentioned with the 180 assets, one of the critical things for them is how do they access that data? Because some of those entities are government entities, and every now and again they get audited. Did that contractor actually maintain that piece of equipment that he said he did? How do I know that that's true? Well, here's the work order. The work order has pictures, it has signatures from the person on site. Those things are invaluable. It's to the point now where it becomes so much a part of what we do, it's difficult to consider that it isn't standard. It's like when you go in your car and you have the button to wind up the windows. Just thinking that there was a moment in time where you had to crank that manually. For people now, they're like, really? That's what you have to do? So, like, no, just having some of those features, it's like, yeah, this is what we do. So, what do you do?
And to add to a point that Dwayne made about the inventory, it's central so everyone has access because even at that location, we had what, 3 teams doing different inventories. So I don't have to say, okay, here, take up this piece of paper and say, here, Dwayne, this is my list. He can log on and see what team 1 does, what team 2 does, team 3 does. He doesn't have to call anybody and say, hey, I'm calling you and not getting you, so I can't move forward with this, say, proposal. All of that information is there for everyone who has access to see. It's hard to quantify, but I can say that it does help, especially in that case, in that scenario, it helps with the troubleshooting. So let's say a customer calls with an issue on a particular unit. It's easy for me to just pull up that asset, look at the previous work orders and notes and see what the last notes that the technician left. So I can say, okay, cool. So if you made a note that this sounded a bit off, let's say the fan bearing sounded a bit off, and I know that the customer called with, let's say, a high pressure. We're dealing with cooling, by the way. I can already know that, okay, cool. So I don't need to go to the location and then come back for equipment or materials and then go back. I can just look and say, cool. So the last thing that he made a note of was the fan. So I know that, cool. Let me just walk with a fan just in case. And more often than not, it saves us that extra trip. So it saves time, it saves gas.
Money, fuel, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if we are going, let's say, far from our base of operations. So it helps. So it's hard to quantify to say it saves us 2 hours, 3 hours, but we know it saves us time, man hours, and money.
It's incalculable.
Yeah, we mainly use a service vehicle for the heavy lifting. So let's say we have a customer that is closer to a location, he would just use his personal vehicle. But in helping in that way, the scheduling, so we can just say, hey, we create the work order, assign it to him. He gets that notification on his phone via the app, and he knows that, okay, cool. So he doesn't have to come to the base. He can just head to the location because it's closer to him. So we have a tech that is literally on the other side of the island, literally on the other side. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jamaica, but we are in Kingston and he's in Montego Bay. So
And
he's literally on the other
other
side.
side of the island, about approximately how many miles or hours would that drive be to get from one side to the other?
Four
About
hours.
yeah, 4, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so that
About
would take
4.
it would take a long time,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. So
That's
for that,
8 hours round trip.
yeah.
Mhm.
So for that particular customers, they use a lot of UPS batteries. So that is where that would come in. So we say, okay, cool. So especially when routine maintenance is coming up, We say, okay, cool. So I see here where your stock is low. So let me just send down some batches to you so that when you start, you can go. There's no hiccups.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, we use it literally every day. Well, I have my quarterly report that I need to do, and it helps. Instead of me trying to calculate how many hours we spent on UPS, comfort cooling, precision cooling, I just filter the report and I get all of that information right there. It makes my job so much easier when that is needed. And when a customer needs to know, okay, how much UPS do I have at this location and that location? All of that is there as well.
Yeah, click, 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 and it's there. And
And it's there.
to add to what Damien mentioned in terms of even the hours, the man hours, what that also helps us to do is our recruiting. So
Yeah.
if it is that when we pull a report, we can say, okay, where is the bulk of the time spent on what area? Is it more on the cooling side? Is it more on the power side of it? Is it on the data cabling side? How much hours do we spend doing delivery? So every year when we say, okay, where it is that we need to invest in terms of additional manpower.
And they say, okay, so I don't see you with any books or anything for me to sign because that is the norm. I was like, yeah, no, I just pop out the phone, and because I have a Samsung, so I have the pen. So I just give them the pen and the phone and say, hey, signature here. And I remember when he looked at me and he's like, so this is it? I said, yeah, this is it. So I just show him this is the before pics and the after, and they love that, but we'll get to that point. He said, this is the before pics, this is the after pics, this is the notes. He looked, and he signed, and I'm like, do you want me to send this to your email right now, or you don't want it? And he was like, yeah, send it. But I know that he had a little bit of doubt. So when I signed off the order, he signed, I closed it up. Do you want to send email to this customer? Yes. And he got it right then and there. He looked at his phone, he looked at me, looked at his phone, he looked at me, and he's like, yeah. And I see where just because of that and the customer portal, it has given us a lot of business because it's so different. It's so different. And especially for those that the person in charge, let's say the person in charge of a technical department, a lot of times they are not in office, and they are overseas traveling wherever. The fact that they can be wherever and get that email and say, okay, so this is what happened with that unit. When their bosses call and say, hey, what happened here? Oh yeah, this is the report from the contractor, and they have it. Love it. Love it. Up to the other day, we still get a little customers every now and then that are still surprised by it, because as what Dwayne said, how is this not the standard? Person still out there using paper, and I remember one of the hospitals, they're saying, yes, this is good because paper, a lot of paper is bad for the environment. So so this is good. The digital is good. And to add, even the templates, let's say, use the same example. You work on 50 pieces of equipment. Oh, you do save a lot of time, because each time you open one of those work orders, you have to type, okay, input voltage is this, output voltage is this. But with the templates, you just punch in the number. So that in itself, you save time. It may save you a 5 minutes or 3 minutes, but if you stretch that over a quarter, over a couple of years, you see where that adds up.
Same, but what it
Okay.
is that we gain is really the efficiency. So they'll come over and they'll say, "Oh wait, this is pretty cool. Why didn't we have this at the old place? This makes my job so much easier."
Easier.
And as Damien mentioned, if it is that it can even be tired, it can even be fatigue. You check the things that you know you need to check, just the core stuff. You go to maintain your car, they may not check the tire pressure, but if it's on a checklist, then it's there to be done.
Yeah.
The tires look fine, but did you actually check them? Because again, it's on the checklist. So it helps even with new technicians when they come over. Every new technician that we have ever gotten, they love it. So a couple years ago, we started using templates. So going back to the data, oh, So we see where this type of equipment, we are doing 50 of this per year. How much time can you save by creating a template? So once it is that you hit this equipment, you just need to punch in the data. You don't have to write, oh, I checked the voltage, oh, I checked the how bright it was, oh, I checked how loud it was. No, how loud it was, you punch in a number. What was the voltage? Punch in a number. So there are those aspects that makes the onboarding a little bit easier, because you will always run into things that you say, oh, but it would be good if we can do this. It would be good. How do we find this information? The support team is always there to say, okay, just as Damien mentioned, it may not be something that's easy to articulate in a message on the chat, but because they're even that flexible to reach out, it's easy to have a conversation to explain exactly what it is that we want to achieve. So then those recommendations always come up. So it wasn't, we didn't see much, if any, gap at all. And again, keeping in mind that any time that it would have cost us would have been saved by having to go back to the office to look at a piece of paper. I consider myself a facilitator. You know, when you're in leadership, my job, I tell them, is to make sure that they have what they need to get their job done. And one of the challenges that I've seen in previous entities that I've worked with is the support for the software that is key to your business. And for me, the first thing I always tell people, you can buy anything anywhere. You can get it built yourself. You can build it yourself. You can go on YouTube and you can learn how to build it. But when it starts giving a problem, what do you do? And for me, just having someone almost at your fingertips, they're almost always there, and most problems, if not all problems, are resolved in hours, if so much. So for me, having that support right there, and it's not something extra, it's they're just there to help, and they follow up every now and again. Did that problem that you pointed out, has there been any further
Because
issues?
it works. And to go back to what Dwayne says, Derek, Derek from support, I have never messaged Derek, and he doesn't, he doesn't know what to do. He give me solutions. I remember one time I was having an issue, and he even called me. He said, "Hey, what's the number I can reach you?" And I let him know that, hey, I'm not in the US, I'm actually in Jamaica. And he said, yeah, no problem. He called me, we talked, and he said, okay, now I have a better understanding of the issue you're facing. Okay, so cool. I'm going to make some checks and get back to you. He sent me the mail, and problem solved. Until every time we have an issue, doing first response is, did you tell Derek? Derek? What did Derek say about this? What did Derek say about that? I was mentioning before you came on, doing that Victor literally just called me saying that he now has access to the service portal, and he was just like, yeah, I really, really love this. And to add to what Dwayne was saying, this is not standard. He has been wanting something like that from ever since. And he literally just got access, and he called and said, hey, I love this. And he's seen everything that we have done so far and all of that. He really, really loved it. And he likes the fact that the signature, he can see who, okay, so this person signed this. And yeah, he really, really loved it.
So that customer is actually the Port Authority of Jamaica, which is a government entity. So again, they are very big on auditing to make sure that whatever work is done is actually done. And when he saw that, he was like, this is a no-brainer. And this is coming from a customer where the current or the contractor that their term has just ended, um, they couldn't get reports. They don't know what was done or when or where, or if it was even done properly. There's no information that they can get on a piece of work order. So having access to this, even to the point where he now realizes that he can send requests. So you can say, okay, this is a problem. This is a piece of equipment that I have a problem with. We get that right away, and we can deploy, so that work order or a service ticket is already created. He knows that. It's beautiful. So when it is that you talk about the benefits and the time that it saves, how do you quantify that? So that customer that we mentioned with the 180 piece of equipment, That's a customer that we maintain their equipment quarterly. So imagine 180 pieces of paper every 3 months. And that doesn't include when they have a call out or issue in between.
Mhm.
They would have to be keeping a track of all of that paper every year. It can be a lot.
And it only takes one storm, one fire, anything like that for all of that to go up in dust. So where is that where's all that information? You have no records of that. So the fact that it is in the cloud, they love it.
It doesn't even have to cause an emergency. Just the fact that it's paper. Where's the last receipt that you bought? Where's that receipt? We don't know. We know it's
Yeah,
important. You probably should keep it just in case something happens. But where the heck is it? No one has any idea. Just the fact that
yeah.
even from the service portal aspect as well. it- I remember Damien was telling me about a story where the customer said, when was the last time we had a problem with this? And then he said, yeah, but I don't need to ask you. I can check. I have access to the portal. I can log in and check it. I don't need you to ask you that. The information is there. So,
I remember, you remember in Montego Bay doing when we the pictures in the condenser with the things that are not supposed to be there.
mhm,
Yeah. And we say, yeah, this was before and this is after. And when he showed him it and he was like, you're lying. I mean, he's not saying that we are really lying, but the fact that this was
can't
before
believe.
and this was after and it was being maintained by another contractor and they assured him that everything was fine. But the fact that we now have this before and after feature, it's yeah, that is another thing that they love because a lot of times contractors say, yeah, I definitely did change this phone case, but they didn't. So the before, yes, this is what the phone case was. After, this is what the phone case is now. This is how we left it. Yes, Dwayne signed to this. He saw me do this, and so cool. What happened? So they love that. They love that feature. They love that feature as well.
Or even training. Yeah, perfect. Because that is what we did. Our last
Last
quarter
year,
report that you did,
yeah.
I mean, no, the last quarter report that you
Oh
did,
yes, yes, yes,
it
yes.
showed that this is the amount of hours that we're spending on a particular type of task, which then prompted us to say, okay, we need to make sure that we have beefed up on the training, get refresher courses in place, because this is where we see a lot more of the manpower going. And then with that, you can also use it to say, okay, you're spending this much on manpower. This is the amount of person that you have. What is the revenue side of it? How much money are we getting from all of this manpower that we're getting? How are rates competitive? How do we use this to say, okay, even the labor costs, what does that look like? So the reports are key. And the type of job, because it may be something that's mundane. And because we can use it to essentially track the hours that is spent on site, it helps when it is that we have those decisions to make. And it's not
Yeah,
a decision that goes off memory. The data is there.
it's
Once it
there.
you put in their information, you put in the hours, when you start, when you stop, the data is there for us to go back, evaluate, and say, yeah, this is where we need. Again, because ServiceBridge and QuickBooks are the two main software that we use, when it is that we can have those dashboards up to say, okay, what are the hours that are spending? Who are the customers that we're supporting? Are there customers that overdue? Because even that is something that we found early on that it's a good thing. So if it is that we're scheduling work for a customer that has, say, $1 million overdue, it prompts you, yeah, you sure you want to continue doing this?
Yeah,
So that will also prompt Damien and his team, even if it is that the finance guys don't yet come out and say, okay, we're putting a halt on this customer only emergencies. Damien will get that prompt and say, hey, I see all of this money is outstanding. How can we support and getting it done? Do you want us to mention this when we're on site? How is that handled? And so having that dashboard with all of that comprehensive information, the next thing I told them is that because we're looking to move in a couple of months, his department needs to get a screen all by itself to have that dashboard on where it is it can show who is where, what they're doing, what the stats are. So yes, it's definitely we can definitely see value in it. So having the templates in place, there's no ambiguity. There's very little need for a spell check because that is also already there and it's already vetted. It ensures that even from the main's perspective, he can ensure that they check the things that they need to check. Because on the template, you can set it that unless all of this
Yeah,
information is
I was just
inputted,
about to get to
you
that
can't
as
close
well.
this work order. So there's no
Yeah,
going around. There's no being lazy with this one. You have to
yeah.
do the work.
And if you try to close it out without doing that, you know that when you go to the dashboard, you will see that notification. So why wasn't this done? If it's a reason there, you have that box to put the reason. But if that box is blank, yeah, why wasn't this done?
So even accountability, it helps with that.
Accountability is there. It is there. And even sometimes, you're working on a lot of equipment, something may slip your mind. But once the template is there, it prompts you because you may genuinely not remember to check this voltage and you skip past it. But once you decide to close, oh yeah, I realize that this wasn't done. And you say, yeah, you go back and you look and you say, oh, yes, I didn't do that. Let me go back and do it.
To give you an example, Mark, late last year we were looking to try to have a software that consolidates everything. So whether it's our accounting, our sales, our CRM, as well as the service side of it. Naturally, we would approach the big guys, the Salesforce and so on. It was a disaster. They come nowhere close, especially when they come out to the asset management side of it, which for us, we couldn't function without it. They were nowhere close.
Not
And it is
even
now at the
close.
point where our business is pretty much built around having access to ServiceBridge. So our two main software that we can't live without is QuickBooks, ServiceBridge.
ServiceBridge.
We don't function without any of those two, any at all. It's our it's the largest company in our industry here locally. They're like 7 times our size, and they actually reached out to us and say, "Hey, what field service software do you use? Because we're kind of struggling over here. We have been in business for like 25 years. That's
Yeah,
25 years of paper." So you imagine you have been growing over 25 years, and this is the largest that you have been in terms of your customer base, equipment that you maintain, and it's all paper.
all
So
paper.
they're definitely using it now. And so what I even said to them, look, grab a couple of interns, give them a 1 year contract, put them in a conference room, and let them convert all of that data. It's the best way. And once you start that, you'll never go back.
Never,
You'll never go back.
never.
But yes, a lot of them are still using paper. I've been to customer site and I've seen our competitors' paper sitting on the desk. Their work order sitting on the desk, just there in a stack of papers. That's not us. I personally can't see our business functioning without it. Our my greatest fear is the day when the internet goes kaput and we can't access any of this. That is actually the stuff that keeps you up at night. But it's lovely. It's yeah. It, as I mentioned earlier when Miles asked the question, it's incalculable how beneficial this is,
Yeah.
and even just the before and after pictures.
They,
Customers will say, yeah, I don't think you did that. Are you sure you did that? Yeah, here's a picture. The site is just that terrible. We did it 2 weeks ago. This is what it looked like. This is what it is when we're done. You
Mhm.
sure? It feels like you went there like months ago. No. Here's the data. Here's the signature.
Here's a timestamp as well on the pictures.